Shane Keeler just, he's joining. Is he on the screen or no?
No.
No, he's got his thing on, so.
Everybody ready to go? All right, I've got 6 o'clock, so we'll call the meeting of the Highlands School Board to order. The first item is the roll call by the clerk. Andy?
Benish here, Biba,
Here.
Trushmeyer,
Here.
Drury,
Here.
Esser,
Here.
Mitchick,
Here.
Shimmick.
Here.
All right, those of you who are here, could you join me for the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Next item is posting of the meeting given to the public pursuant to Wisconsin statute 1984.
So moved.
Second. It's Greg.
A motion by Esser and a second by Biba to approve. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is approval of the minutes. And there's 3 sets of minutes there. One's for the October 14th meeting, one for the 28th annual meeting, and one for the special meeting on the 28th. The annual meeting minutes, we're just reviewing. If there's any corrections or anything in there, we can do those. The other 2 we'll need to approve.
Is Lynn Mitchell coming in, or is she gonna?
I'll take care of it.
You're the middle school coach. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the October 14th regular board, October 28th annual meeting, and October 28th special meeting minutes.
I'll second. This is Andy.
All right, we have a motion by Esser and a second by Benish to approve the meeting minutes presented. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Next are the approval of current expenses and vouchers payable. And Bryce or Josh, do you have anything on there that you want to go through?
Not really. I checked a couple of things here. We have 4 kids taking classes through CESA 9. That's for $1,375. Another thing I noted on toward the last page, the alarm system service agreement for $25.91 for fire alarms. That's an annual fee. That's why I checked with Linda on that. Otherwise, we've got some textbooks we needed for chemistry at the top of the last page for $3,000. Nothing else really. You can see the hotspot, 625 for the US Cellular hotspots for virtual students again.
I'll make a motion to approve the current expenses and vouchers payable. Schmidt.
This is Todd, I'll second.
A motion by Schimick and a second by Mitchick to approve the current expenses and vouchers payable. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is public appearances before the board, not for action. Anybody have anything for us? Doesn't look like it, so we'll go on to announcements and reports. Josh, you're up first.
All right. First quarter in the books. We're in, this is the start of our third week of the second quarter, believe it or not. Veterans Day was today. Unfortunately, we were not able to have an in-person Veterans Day today. So we did do a recording that will be shared with the community and the staff and the kids. Middle school played and the middle high school choir sang. We did not have the high school play with being virtual last week, and we had a surge of some high school players that went virtual this week. We just didn't have enough pieces there that we could play the pieces and get enough practice in person. So unfortunately, our high school band was not able to play their pieces, but we were able to get something done and get it out. Obviously, we made an announcement on how important Veterans Day is and what it means to us as a country, as a community. So I was glad that we were able to do something that we can share with our veterans, and hopefully that'll suffice for this year. But sports. Middle school basketball for the boys has started this week. So they're rolling. We switched that up, if you remember. So they didn't, because there's more of a wrestling thing. The wrestlers in middle school were having a heck of a time getting any tournaments previously, unless we switched it up, so we did that. Seems to be, I think it's going to work out. Obviously, this year's a whole different world. A lot of schools aren't doing any middle school sports. Volleyball finished up. We did have a person we found out last night that was recognized at the state level. Rachel Miller was a first team all-state selection this year. So the last person that had that was Kendall Winkus, which was a few years ago. So especially being a junior, he was all-state honorable mention as a sophomore and all-state first team this year as a junior. That is remarkable. So we're extremely proud of that. Wrestling, they're having their first meeting tomorrow here at the end of the day. We'll do a Zoom meeting with Coach Allen over at Iowa Grant. So obviously that's starting to get heated up, boys basketball. in a couple weeks. Girls basketball starts on Monday, so I know later in the agenda they're talking about expectations for sports, so we'll talk about that then, but we'll get those things rolling here shortly. And overall, I think we're talking about that later under yours, right, Mr. Bird, as far as the meeting we had today. I'll stress that, or we'll talk about things there.
There is, under new business.
Yeah. Is it under there?
Yeah.
Yes, under the school schedule review.
Right.
So, other than that, I think that's about it for right now. I'm a little worried about grades right now with some kids. Started the second quarter, they always seem to get lax because they get one quarter in, and they think they can take a break before they start the next one, but it's a little more than I want to see. It's always more than I want to see, obviously, but it's a lot more than I want to see right now. So hopefully these kids pick it up, as they're going to need to move forward here. So that's it for me. Let's see if questions.
How did first quarter grades end up? Pretty decent or normal or?
Actually, better, Mike, than I expected.
Okay.
I shouldn't say expected. Better than we had more Fs than obviously I'd like. Some of those were, honestly, we just could not get those kids to engage virtually. We lost some that way. But for the most part, kids hung right in there. They got stuff done, they got it in. And, some of these kids that did fail, though, they were right at that border. I think I looked at them all, and majority were 60 to 65. Still enough, obviously, but a lot easier road now to pass for the semester that goes on your transcript as far as the high school level. So I was pleased that way.
Okay.
But, yeah, can we do better? Definitely. We'll work on that, but considering everything that's going on and all that good stuff, I was overall pretty happy. Anybody else?
All right, then we're on to the district administrator report, Bryce.
We've been in contact with Steve Lavelle from the Neola Policy Service, and we will have an update meeting. He'll come to the school in a couple of weeks, and we will assemble a group, Josh, Barb, myself, and Linda, and we'll go through the policies. And there's, on this update, there's maybe 20 different policies that need some tweaking. There's 5, I believe, that we have to complete. And then we'll bring those to the board, for approval. We'll get those out ahead of time. Yesterday, I was listening to part of a webinar through DPI, going through their budget, what they're requesting for budget increases and different things. And, it happens every biennium. They put things out there that they want to increase in the budget. And then the legislature has the last word, obviously, but they're looking at trying to still keep in the formula a $150 increase per student. And then a bunch of the other things are tied to special student populations, like some funding for special ed, some high poverty funding, some funding, again, for mental illness or mental health type things. And the comments that were made, it depends on, the economy getting back on track and how much the pandemic is going to hurt the economy in Wisconsin, all those types of things. So it's just very preliminary, and a lot of times since we held on to some decent increases, it's always anticipated that you don't usually get very favorable budgets 2 years in a row or 2 bienniums in a row. So it's anticipated that maybe kind of flat, but if the Wisconsin economy, if this thing would ever end with the coronavirus, that we would have an uptick and maybe we would, still fare pretty well. So it's early to tell, but we'll be monitoring that. And then most of the other stuff, the longer discussion tonight will be on, how long we stay open, if we close, change our learning model, go to virtual. So that's coming a little bit later, so we kind of won't waste time on this other stuff, I guess.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Bryce before we move on then? All right, so I think we're down to new business then and acceptance of gifts.
Sorry, I got a person that's trying to get on a can. I'm sending him a quick text here. I have my phone open right now. I told the staff today we had a meeting that if you got something that you want me to share with the board, just shoot me a text and I'll try to make sure that you get heard. So just so people know. Gifts. Is that where we're at there, Mike?
Yep.
So Collision Specialist, as you know, every year has given us a donation, and this year is no different. I believe it's $400, Barbie, correct? From Collision Specialist, Greg Slack went over there on Tuesday of last week and picked it up. So we want to thank them. I think this is now our 8th year, I think, that they have donated money to our district. So that was very, very generous of Collision Specialists. Want to recognize them. The next one is McCann Building Corporation. They donated the money to for the school district so everyone could watch the volleyball game live stream. As you know, you always had it for free through the conference regular season, but in the playoffs, there is a fee, and you could do a one fee and everyone could get it. And McCann generously donated the money to do that. There was one before that too that we got a donation from that was anonymous. So I just want to thank McCann and the anonymous person for their contribution. I think total is $150 each, so it's $300 that was donated, Barbie, to the district so we could do those things. So those are our gifts tonight.
Make a motion to approve with gratitude.
I second that motion and with gratitude as well. Shimmick.
So a motion by Esser and a second by Shimmick to accept the gifts as presented. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Then we're on to possible school schedule revisions, Josh.
Yes, school possible revisions. Do we go virtual? Do we not? And I want to have a lengthy discussion on this, to be honest with you. I want to make sure you guys understand all the views from every angle, but understand that every angle that we talk about tonight, there's a different angle that someone else has, or a different view. And I want to make sure that I reiterate that my view is just my view, my opinion. And I had a meeting tonight with staff, and really there has been no change since day one till now as far as where staff is at. It's no different than where the community's at. It's no different than probably some of you in here are at. You know, we have people that think we should be virtual and should have been from day one. And we have people that say there's no way we should be virtual. We want kids in the building. So that makes a decision that we have to make here, obviously not an easy one, and we knew that from day one. So let me share some things that the staff feel, that I feel, and please let me know where you guys are at. So when we do make a decision, that we're all heard, and that the staff is heard, that, you know, where we're at with everything and how everyone feels. So you want me to just keep rolling, Mr. Bird, or do you want to start? Or?
I'll jump in when
All right.
I need to.
So Iowa County right now obviously is growing exponentially in cases of COVID. And the health department, who we meet with every week, they're working their tails off too, they're doing a great job. The message that Mr. Bird shared with you before about what the most recent and latest thing that they said is that they're recommending that we go virtual. At least middle through high school, maybe not so much in the elementary. They are concerned that the hospital beds they're getting full. Upland Hills doesn't have the empty spots that they had even a month ago. They're going back to phase one, which means I believe 10 people indoors and 25 outdoors. So that's where they want us to go. That's what their recommendation is. That is not a mandate. It has never been a mandate, and they've recommended that since day one, when we got the first news that this was a pandemic. However, in day one, we might have had 7 cases in Iowa County. We had 70 cases just this weekend in Iowa County, right? Now, I'm not saying that's Highland. What are we at here? Are there COVID cases in Highland that we don't know about? I'm sure there is. So far, we have had two middle school students, 2 high school students, and 0 elementary students that have contracted COVID. I'm pretty certain that none of the students contracted it from kid to kid in school. Now, I can't guarantee that, I don't know. Maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. They seem to be coming from when they're, someone outside, and it happens, right? Someone goes to work, someone comes home. So, but I can tell you that COVID is here. It's in our building, it's in the community, and it's increasingly, from what we got today in the meeting, it will not peak until probably 3 weeks from now, they're thinking. How they figure that, I don't know, but that's what they're guessing in this surge, that in 3 weeks it's gonna peak and then hopefully start coming down again. So they would like schools to go virtual to, keep kids safer at home, I guess it's called. All right, the opinion that I shared with the staff today, and again, I say this is my opinion, is I think we can be here. I think, the staff are just working their ever-living tails off. However, working here and doing it how we're doing it is the hardest there is. What I mean by that is, if everyone would be in person and there was no one virtual, that is the easiest way and the best way to teach. No one denies that. That's not an option, right? We want to make sure parents, and we always said, every parent has the option to virtual teach their, have their kids go virtual. So, but when you have 50% virtual and you have 50% in the classroom, right? That is the hardest to teach. When you're trying to teach people in front of you and teach people, through a screen. Where if everyone was virtual, that would alleviate a lot of hassle that way. It would be easier for teachers. I mean, to say that it would be easier for me is an understatement, right? If we were virtual, my job got a heck of a lot easier. But is that what's best for kids? And that's one thing that we have to figure out. I asked, like I said, staff, share your opinions with me, and I know I apologize to the staff first and foremost, because I think some of them got the idea or got the impression that I was taking it and letting people think that it's no big deal. All right, COVID, you get sick, in a couple of weeks you'll be all right. And they might be right on that, and I apologized tonight and told them that I do know that it's serious. I do know that this can kill someone, especially if they have a health condition. I have a cousin that's in the hospital right now. But the reason I probably did that, I know the reason I did is because I don't want to add to a stress level that they're already at. If I come in and say, and start speaking about, how dangerous this thing is, I don't want staff to have that under, so that's one thing that I apologize for tonight. So, I ask people, if you have an opinion, please share it with me. I'll share it with the board, and I can tell you, I can talk about some things. I get one that says, hey, I really think we need to keep kids in school. The next one might say, I just don't think, I think we should go by what the Iowa County has recommended. Sharon Frederick obviously is at every one of those meetings. She's our school nurse. She's working her tail off too. She thinks if we want to be the safest we can be, we need to go virtual. And I can't deny that. I can't argue with that. She's right. But I can't say that's what's best for kids. I can't say that, in my opinion. So I asked Ashley Halverson if I could share a thought that she had. I just asked her, I said, how long do you think we'd have to go virtual? Because if you just start with it, we know it's going to be hard. We know that first 2 weeks, it's going to suck. There's all the kinks we got to get worked out, And she said, if you want to do it, you want to do it right, you got to give it a shot of at least 4 to 5 weeks. So, and then I said, well, is there a hybrid just virtually and not virtually that we can do instead of having people, because one of the big things that staff have a hard time with is you got a kid that's virtual 1 week, next week they're not, next week they go virtual again, next week they don't. Is this kid virtual? Is this kid not? I'm supposed to get this prepared for them. Kids aren't picking up stuff. They need to pick up stuff. that makes it really, really difficult for staff, really difficult. And I know at the beginning of the year, we said, hey, if you want to do either one, try it, but once you make your decision, you want to switch, you can switch, but then you're done, let's stay there, right? Well, that's not happening, and I can't go up and say, you know, Mike, your kid said you were coming to school and now you want to go back to virtual. You know, I'm not the person to say you can't go back, you know, looking back now, I can't do that. I mean, that's not fair, right? And then we had a surge, you know, of people that are concerned about, you know, sports, and they want to make sure their kid doesn't put their team in jeopardy. So they're going virtual at least until football, then they'll come back. You know, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I can't say either way. You know, I know a lot of players asked, so we had a meeting and said, that is not our decision. That is a decision for you and your parents. If that's what you feel is best for your kid, that's what you do. So, you know, but just the big thing that, you know, too many kids, when they're virtual, at least right now, they think it's a vacation too much. You know, their focus level is not there. And, you know, they go up, they go to the bathroom or whatever, and they're grabbing something out of the fridge, they got their pet in their hand, their camera's off, you see half their head, and we stress them, you can't do that. You've got to stay in there, stay with it, you know? But some kids have a heck of a time. You know, and then teachers are talking to them, they can't hear them, can they? So now then they start yelling, and then, hey, Kenny, you know, and then, you know, then the kid thinks they're getting yelled at, and then I get a call. Other things like, you know, we got kids that say they're not getting logged on, they're not. We can see the computer, you know, they're using it, and unfortunately there are some that do have that issue, but then you have some that don't, that use it because they just didn't get to class on time. Oh, my computer, you know? Would I be any different if I was that age? Probably not. If I take the week that we're virtual and how beautiful it was outside, am I gonna focus sitting in this computer and look outside at 70 degrees out? And I'm at home, right? On that end of it. You know, if you look at the kids' end of it, a lot of times they come in, they can't hear real well, right? Or the teacher forgets to turn the microphone on or something, and now they're missing half of it. And we do have kids that have a hard time logging on. We have new kids that get cut out, and they get old, right? So those are the issues that we're having, and I can't see those going away. You know, we stress to parents that you've got to, you know, hound your kids to make sure they're staying in there. Because if we have to go virtual, if that's the best thing, we need to do it and do it right. You know, I mean, obviously there's a ton of schools out there that are virtual, and they must be making it work. So if that's what we have to do, we got to do better.
What's the percentage virtual now? I mean, you know, 25% of the kids, are they virtual?
Well, we have
It's been back and forth.
yeah, we have about 40 kids out of the district right now.
But can I ask a question? How many of them are choosing to be out, and how many of them have to be out because of being exposed?
Yeah. And that's the other thing we talked about tonight, as Andrea said, you know, it's changed. It get changed 10 minutes, right? We have a kid here, and we get a phone call, and pretty soon I got to grab this kid, and Barb said they need this kid, you know, because something happened, obviously so this kid's got a quarantine, at least until we find out if the kid's positive or not, right? If they are, then it's a whole, as you guys know, we got 14 days, right? But as of right now, starting tomorrow, all my staff will be back tomorrow, or, you know, actually Friday, but Friday's a virtual day this week. So, you know, we're actually in a better spot right now that way than we've been in a long time. Previous to that though, as far as our age, I mean, they're bouncing around like basketballs, trying to cover this, cover that. Ms. Hessling, our guidance counselor, has been doing that. You know, Barbie's trying to figure, you know, every day puts together, we need this covered, this covered, this covered, this covered, this covered. And we're able to do it so far. You know, we had to go virtual for a week with the high school. That wasn't because of the kids. That was because we just didn't have the staff that were available. You know, could we have staff? I mean, we just played it safe. You know, if you want to call it playing it safe, you know, but we've never had it where it's been the students, you know, that had positive cases that caused us that we really need to, that hasn't been the case yet. Now, have we had a ton of kids that got quarantined because someone in the family or something got it? Yes. So that's what makes it difficult. You know, we have a staff member that could come back this week, but he's got younger kids that are still quarantined, so he can't, you know, so he's still at home yet. So following the protocols has made it difficult to keep everything covered all the time. So I think overall, since the beginning of the year, we have more people in the building than we've had since, from the beginning. People are getting more comfortable coming back. But then again, we've lost some now because of, the influx of COVID and how far it's changed. So I think a big question that staff have is, why are we not following the recommendation of the experts? If the experts say that this is what you should do, why are we not doing that? And, that was the meeting today, and Debbie Singenthaler's, and she's doing a great job. But I just asked her a question. I said, okay, my question is this: if you take Mount Horeb as an example, or a district that's been virtual since day one, right? Are there cases of COVID in school-aged kids less because they are not in school than ours are because we are? And she didn't know. She didn't have an answer for that. Is Dane County worse than that? As far as I know, it's a lot worse. If those kids are not in school. Now, would it be a lot worse if they were? I don't know. But to say that COVID is not in our building, it is. We've had 4 staff that have contracted it, between professional staff, administration, and aides. So I'm really worried about, obviously, not just the kids, but the staff. Some of them are getting to the point where they're scared. They don't want to feel that way, and I understand that. So, that's hence the reason, like I said before, about trying to kind of, hey, it's going to be okay. It's not that big a deal type of thing, and I know it is. They're overwhelmed. I got some staff that I've asked to help out and do more than that and lose their prep because we need something covered. For the most part, we've been able to do it, not have to do that, but not all the time. So those are the things I really think we need to consider. And, they asked, one was kind of upset with me as a staff member a little bit. I think that I was speaking and trying to convince everybody that we need to be here. And she was right. I am trying to convince people that we need to be here. But I don't want that, my opinion, to be, if people think that we need to shut down and go work, let's do it. We can do it in a day. Just give me one day to get, give the staff time to get stuff ready, and we can do it. But if we do it, I agree with Ashley in the sense that I don't think we want to bounce around with it. I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, I talked about, hey, how about it was 2 weeks in, a week out. 2 weeks in, a week out. And keep that so we can, but would that make a difference with the spread of it? I don't think so. Maybe I'm, or do we look at all or nothing? Some people thought, and this was my thought before, I don't know if it's the same now, but let's go until we can't go. If we can't go, shut it down, right? And obviously that person comes up and, I've been asked a couple times, I said, what if you lose a staff member? How would you feel about that? What if we lost a kid? And obviously that's the biggest fear of anyone, right? If I lose a kid to suicide, and that is just something we need to consider too. The mental and emotional well-being of our kids has got to play a factor in this. So, right? The chances of a person dying from COVID, are they any more than of a chance of a person dying driving to work? I don't know, right?
Either way you set this up, either way you decide, there's, you go virtual, it solves some issues and it creates other issues. And some of the issues it creates are, some kids can be connected virtually, some kids it's very difficult, the younger kids, to receive instruction virtually. Some of them aren't supervised, or it puts burden on parents to create daycare or miss work, or however they're going to cover that. So it's not a perfect world. Bringing all kids face to face, then what you have there, you got people in close quarters, you got more of a chance of contracting COVID from each other. So each one has its own issues. My thinking along this line generally is that you stay in school as long as you can, and mainly it's going to be the quarantines, the mandatory quarantines of the staff. You won't have enough staff like you did a couple weeks ago here, and then you have to shut down. The one thing that had some merit, I thought, was closing the week after Thanksgiving. You know, it makes some sense with the idea of if people are at different gatherings, then the week after you would identify people that got sick and they would be separated out, they would be quarantined, they wouldn't be in with the population. However, I'm not so sure that it tracks that neatly. That's just trying to be proactive. It sounds good. I don't know if that actually pan out that way, but if you did it then you're looking at another time would be right after the New Year's break. I mean, schools are talking about that. The staff also did mention about a chunk of time, if it was one way or the other. The hardest thing for them is they're teaching in person and virtual at the same time. So if they were virtual for a week or 2 weeks, at least they can focus in one way, and it's just a little less demanding for that period of time. And I think the staff has done a great job. They've had a great attitude. I think there's this, what they call it, COVID fatigue or pandemic fatigue, but there's a lot on them, and they can't help. They can't get to every kid, and it's frustrating for them. So, but back to the not following the experts. So the county, the whole state of Wisconsin, I guess the whole country is way up with cases. But right here in our school district, now we're poised, right now we have more staff back at this time. So maybe it's not exactly the time right now. Maybe there's time after Thanksgiving, that's when we close. Maybe we go until we have more cases where it restricts our staff. I'm just not sure about that, but I mean, each way you decide, there's issues created. So it's not going to be something everybody agrees on. We want what's best for our kids. We also want to keep the staff. You know, it's going to be a long year still, and there's just a lot to consider. One thing, though, I look at it this way, that the community, the parents, are accepting the risk of putting kids in school because we have a lot more kids face-to-face than we have choosing to go virtual. So if they were worried, if they had means or they felt it was best to educate them virtually, they have that option. So just by the fact that the parents are keeping their kids in school tells me that they know there's a risk, but they're accepting the risks over keeping their kids at home for the most part.
You know, another aspect too is the fact that, you know, what goes on in the community is different than what happens in school, right? When, you know, a kid's supposed to be quarantined and you find out they're riding bike with their buddies and hanging out, you know, when they leave here, that doesn't help, right? And so I think it's frustrating when we come here and every kid's got to wear a mask all day long. Every staff member's got to wear a mask all day long, and some, you know, it's a constant fight with a couple, and you guys, hey, put your mask up over your nose, right? The majority are great, some aren't. You know, we do that, but then when they leave here, obviously every family's in a different place. every staff member's in a different place. Every kid's in a different place, usually where their parents are and where they are, right? And you can, you know, some people think masks are not a contributing factor to this one way or the other. They shouldn't have to wear masks, right? So all these things are play factors in this. So the same things when you hear about, you know, this kid that's supposed to go on quarantine, you find out they're at a slumber party or sleepover with someone, you know, that makes it really hard to justify all the work that staff do sometimes. You know, to put it blunt and be upfront about that. So if we were to go virtual, how serious is it gonna go? You know, do we have to do it long enough for families to understand it is, or, you know, one person says, we need to be the example for the community. You know, we are the school district, we need to set the example. This is what's best for our kids. We need to work together here to get this right. You know, we need to try this, we need to do it for a little time, you know? So, you know, some other things that were shared, and I'm trying to hit everyone and not miss things. And I'm not saying that I agree or disagree with any of this. Everyone's got valid points on this. I could give you a ton of valid points of why we should be virtual, right? I can give you a ton of valid points to say we need to have kids here. I just know that the staff, like I said, I'm worried about them. They're, you know, like one mentioned today, it says, I once, you know, usually once a month, I just take a day and I take a mental health day, right? Well, I'm begging them not to do that because I can't get it covered, right? Someone wakes up, they got a sore throat, and it's in their mind, it's, Jesus, do I go to work? Do I not go to work? What should I do? They got that stress every time they wake up and they have a cough or something. Jeepers, if I go to work, I could be one spreading the damn stuff, right? So they have that in the back of their mind all the time. You know, and I know someone would, there's no way I have COVID, I got a runny nose, and I'm sure as hell that I know they do, right? So all these things play factors and add to the stress level of the staff. And, you know, but can virtual work? Sure it can. Is it the best option as far as an education? If you look at solely an education, we all know it's not. There's no way I can tell you that me learning through computers is as good as I have a teacher in the room, right? So, but, you know, Meg was quarantined. She did fine. She got on, got her stuff done. You know, just talking this year, obviously everyone was last year, but this is a whole different world and our expectations are higher now than they were last spring because we need to be, you know, but some kids so far have not been able to make that adjustment and they have not had the support at home to do well. And it's showing right now.
So we'd like the board to weigh in or share their thoughts or give us some direction on this, I guess.
So I have a quick question for you guys. The Iowa County's recommending the middle and high school go to virtual, but not necessarily the elementary. What's the reasoning behind, you know, our school is so small that why would you have half the school in and the other half isn't able to, whereas the older kids are gonna socialize out of school as much as they are in school?
I think, you want me to hit this one, bro? All right. I think what, the big thing that they're saying is because of an elementary age kid, even though studies have shown that they're less likely to get it, one reason. The other reason is you have so many families that really, as far as daycare and someone having to stay home, not being able to go to work, really puts families in a tough spot that, you know, I think their recommendation is a K-12, but understand where if you could do middle and high school at least, where those kids probably, at least most of them wouldn't need supervision, where your parents could still go to work, you know, still obviously try to keep the economy moving forward, not have that stress of income more than you would normally. And the thought of virtual teaching at the lower elementary, the lower you go, the harder it is. So I'm guessing that's what it is, but you know, I don't necessarily think, you know, would you agree or?
Yeah.
Would you say that most of the students that are currently not doing as well virtually would be doing much better in school, like 50% better? Or is it just, unfortunately, maybe that child always wasn't maybe getting good grades and they just aren't doing better?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think it's hard to engage kids, especially if you're a little, if school isn't maybe your thing, or you're not interested in some subjects, and then to be taught through the computer screen makes it worse. I've even noticed that with certain alternative schools where kids aren't cutting it and they go into an alternative program and then they put them on a curriculum that's all on computer, and it's like, that's harder, in my mind, for them to focus in on that. This is just the way, it's just you and the computer, so the teacher can't clarify. This maybe, there is a chance for the teacher to answer questions and things, but she's got that going and classroom going, and it's
Right. Well, my question
I think
is,
it's
like,
hard.
is that student already one of the students who, if they were in the classroom, would already be needing that extra attention or extra reminders, like,
I think a lot of
would
them
already
are.
be not maybe in the greatest spot already? Even if they were in school, they wouldn't be an A+ student.
You got a certain percentage of kids
That's
that would fail whether they're here, well, I shouldn't say fail, but would really struggle whether they're in the building, out, but it doesn't matter.
Right,
You got a
right.
certain percent, it's a low one, thank God, right?
Right.
Here's where we're hitting the most. This is, and I probably should have mentioned, I apologize, but you take a kid that, when they're here, before COVID, we had to sit by them and make sure they got
Right.
stuff done. And when we did that, they went from an F and we got them around that D to C range. And we could keep them there because we knew exactly what we could read their face, we could see them, we could sit down, and we had age right there, boom, boom, boom. Those are the kids that we're losing, all right? An A kid that's in school here is probably gonna be an A kid virtually.
Okay.
A B
That's
kid is
great.
probably gonna be a B kid, a C kid. Those are the ones, those CD kids here in building
D's
become
and
the
F's.
DF kids from what we've seen. Now,
Okay.
can we do better and get better? Definitely, but that's been the trend, I guess I'll say.
Josh, I'll make a few comments and then I hope the rest of the board can kind of weigh in just with a few thoughts. Number one is there's no good answer, and
None.
there really isn't, and I appreciate that. I do want to just say thanks to you and to Bryce and all the staff. This is much harder than a normal school year. It's trying to teach virtually and in person all at the same time. It's crazy. It really is. And so I just want to thank the staff for their efforts and just sticking with the kids through all this stuff because it's tough. I think, it's easy to say to switch to virtual because that's the safest thing to do. But it puts so much stress on the kids and on the parents. I guess I'm more worried about the staff than anything. So, that's one of the things that you guys that are here and with them all the time have to help gauge on their mental health and how they're working through this. If you've got support from them to keep doing this, that's great. And I know it varies between, you're not gonna get 100% either way. But if the majority, and we can kind of keep working through that with staff, I think to try keeping going as long as we can. I do agree that maybe there's some time around Thanksgiving or around Christmas that we extend some of our breaks and do some virtual or something there to kind of, if there are gatherings outside of school, that some of those may work themselves out. But the other thing, as far as not following recommendations and stuff, I think I'd be a lot more concerned if there was documented spread in the school. But I think as long as we keep doing our distancing and our mask wearing, and I think everybody's been doing a good job with that. To have 4 students and 4 staff through all of this craziness that's been happening lately in Iowa County is good, and I can speak for, at least one of those students that they didn't pick it up here at school. So, yeah, that's just my thoughts. I think we're in a tough position, but I think being in school is good for the kids. It's really hard to leave them at home and try to work through this all on their own. We talk about the elementary kids wanting to have them in school because their parents aren't home. It's hard for a middle school kid to be at home all day by themselves and work through an 8-hour school day as well.
Yeah, I think actually the middle school age is the hardest. To be honest with you, they're not as tech savvy. They're a lot more tech savvy than I am, but that's not saying anything. But they're, they're not there yet, but they're young enough where You know, if they're on their own, they don't understand the importance of an education as much yet, you know, they're not. So I think actually the middle school is the hardest of this virtually wise. Because they don't have a parent there and they're not, you know, as ready as a high school, mature enough yet. On that note too, you talk about we're doing things right here in school. I want to reiterate that we don't, you know, we do a good job as far as in the classroom, but I mean, honestly, we still have kids when we pass in the hallway, they're all grouped up. You know, in lunch, we sit down and we're spread out as best we can. Is it 6 feet all the time? Definitely not. You know, and I keep looking at that and I think, you know, I wish I had something better way. You know, I mean, I tell them, hey, spread apart, but yeah, the kids are kids. You know, and pretty soon they're back and I walk over and talk to this group and with this here, I got 5 groups, you know, just looking at one phone, looking at some, you know, deer picture or something, I don't know, but, you know, so I don't want you to think that we're all perfectly 6 feet all the time. We are not, you know, we do mask breaks, we do that and we keep them apart as best we can, but I don't want you to think, you know, I don't want to say that it's all perfect at school by any means, so.
We are all human.
I'm gonna,
Sorry.
kudos for what Mike exactly said to staff. I think from day one till now, I think the staff here has done exceptionally a great job of trying to keep our kids where they need to be learning wise through this whole pandemic with the mask wearing and whatever else that we have to do to maintain what we've been doing here thus far. I can't say that, you know, based on what other school district they're doing or what they're doing, all I know is what Highland's doing, and I think we're doing a fantastic job of what we're doing right now to keep these kids learning. So I want to extend my biggest thank you to all of you for that. Now, do I say that going virtual is the answer? I'm going to say the part of me that says, I agree with Mike, probably around the holidays, that's probably the easiest way to make it known that if families are going to get together with one another and say that, and have a gathering, and then 5 days later we have people coming down with COVID, it's going to happen. So that's probably one of the areas that I'd probably like to explore is look at that and say, yes, that's probably maybe a good idea. Going virtual until whenever, I can't say that's going to be the most economic reason for our community, because I think a lot of people are going to be stressed financially at home to keep students learning at home. And as it is right now with a lot of people not having work or reduced work, taking that away from them to make sure that their student is learning at home is going to be stressful on parents at home. So I get both sides of it. I get where the teachers are coming from. I get what Bryce said earlier. Obviously, parents are wanting their children in school because they feel that is the best place for them to learn. And I guess if we're going to go to a hybrid or a virtual model, there's going to be more discussion than just tonight as to how to proceed with that, because I don't think we can solve that answer tonight. So in my opinion, right now, if I'm kind of leaning with Mike on around the holidays, we probably extend it a little bit for the virtual learning. But my thought is, what's best for our kids right now to keep who wants to be here for learning.
Well, if we would go, so next week is, so tomorrow's a day, regular day, then there's a virtual day. Then there's 5 days next week, 2 days the week before Thanksgiving.
Right.
So what if you tried to go to Thanksgiving and then go virtual, announce that you go virtual the full week after Thanksgiving? If you did that, then there's 2 weeks, 2 weeks and a couple days, and then there's Christmas, so there'd be, I don't know when we get out exactly on Christmas, but,
23rd.
so there's like 2 weeks and 2 days or whatever. Then you'd be at the Christmas break, so you'd have a week, just have one virtual week planned in there. Now, if we couldn't make it till Thanksgiving because things got bad, I mean, if we have, we might always have to go virtual if we can't staff it, but if we could go, you know, 2 more weeks basically. 2 more weeks is the night before Thanksgiving, is that right?
Yeah.
So we go 2 more weeks of instruction, have Thanksgiving, and then go the week after Thanksgiving virtual, and then we have a couple weeks stretch to get us into Christmas. And that December time, we decide if we come back, you know, maybe it peaks and it's coming down the other side by then, maybe we don't have to do it, but if it worked well, maybe we do a week in January. Maybe we can get by with those 2 weeks virtual, but then it's planned out and people know about it and the staff knows about it. And like I said, we always have you forced to change, like within a day's notice, if there is an outbreak or a staffing situation that we can't cover. That's supposed to stimulate more conversation.
Can we get substitute teachers currently?
We've got one that we have all the time, but she had just been quarantined because of our latest thing, but she's back tomorrow. She's been outstanding. But overall, it's been extremely difficult.
Okay, so my thoughts, I guess, I'm sorry, but I'm on the flip side of the others right now. I have a hard time looking at this and seeing that we're getting a recommendation from the county, from the state, that our middle school and high school should be going virtual, and you've already addressed concerns of teachers that are wondering why we're not following that recommendation. They're stressed. I mean, the teachers, like you said, are very important, and if, like Greg said, if we don't have very many subs, if any of them get it, what are you going to do? I mean, then it's too late. I like the idea of the extension around the holidays, but I'm thinking that's for elementary. If we want to stay in for elementary and follow the recommendation for middle school and high school, then around the holidays we extend it. The elementary is going to go virtual too, just because they're going to be in those family groups. Everybody's going to be in that. I like that idea, but I just have a hard time agreeing with staying open when the recommendation is that we should be going virtual for middle school and high school. That's my thought.
Thanks, Todd, and it's completely understandable where you're coming from, and I appreciate your comments, and Greg and Brent and Andy, I appreciate yours too, and Katrina.
I'm really torn. My kids need to be in school, but I really am concerned that, I'm not concerned about my kids' safety, but I am concerned about the teacher safety. The staff is what I really want to know more about. I don't feel like we got a lot of input. Josh, you had said that you were going to get texts and stuff from them. Could we get a little more information about that? Like I said, my kids need to be in school, but I'm having a hard time feeling like that's the right decision for safety concerns.
I can tell you, I think I shared, I can read it. First, I agree with you. I think kids are safer at school at the present time, mentally and socially, exceptionally, especially the ones that I work with. Last spring, they accomplished very little. So it is more essential for virtual, it's more stressful for virtually. I know you probably don't need another opinion right now, but that's another point. I know a stressor for me is that if I should come to work or not, if I'm not feeling well, or she's talking about family members, I feel like I have to come to work no matter what. I don't feel comfortable telling me that I need to stay home. I feel like I seem like I'm overreacting. I kind of made it seem like staff were leaning toward going virtual and that they weren't thinking about what's best for kids. Just because some may not agree with me, she's talking about me, doesn't mean that they don't think what's best for kids is in their minds. Every staff member is in a different situation, just as every family is. What works for one doesn't work for another. Anxiety is high, stress is high. That's never makes for a good working environment. We all want to do what's best, but what's best for one might not be the best for all. It doesn't make your decision easier. We have faith in the guidance that the administration and the board provides. We will follow and just tell us where we need to go. Let's see. My opinion, it needs at least 4 to 5 weeks to be the honest shot at what virtual would look like for the middle and high school. It would take a couple weeks just to work out the kinks. In the classes I teach, I'm confident I can deliver the same education either in person or online. However, it's not the same for everybody. I'm not the best person to ask about the 2 weeks on, 1 week off schedule. As far as the internet concerns, if we don't go and have to close our building, could students have internet issues still come in and use the library classroom space? So obviously we go virtual, but those kids that can't get on, they can come in. Then that goes back to that teaching both again. But lastly, it seems like there's a pretty clear line drawn in the sand between high school and elementary teachers. I totally respect and understand that. I don't know what you're going to find, how you're going to find a solution that makes everyone happy. We're not going to, other than split the option to come in and need it. You know, band kids need to come in, shop kids need to come in, you know, for that class. I will be very honest, I am incredibly worried about returning in person for a number of reasons. You know, this person is just really concerned about having to teach in here. I think it's important to mention that the staff morale and mental health is taking a hard hit across the board. Teaching both in-person and virtual learning is a lot of additional work and draining, even to the teachers that are tech savvy and capable. One person says, hey, what about purchasing an online platform for all the virtual kids and having someone administer that separately? Would that be an option to alleviate some stress for the staff?
I've heard some districts doing it that way.
Yeah, Platteville's doing that. However, you know, Platteville will have, you know, if they have 6 sections or 5 sections of first grade or whatever, 4 sections. One teacher will teach the section of virtual kids and the other sections. So it's a lot easier that way when you can just do the 3rd grade curriculum where if they were doing that, I got this teacher's gonna teach 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. You have 5th, 6th, 7th. That's the only way we can do it. Now, we can look at it, definitely, but.
So did you earlier say in that thing that the elementary and is kind of split from the high school as far as is the elementary more comfortable, those teachers more comfortable and more wanting to be in person?
If I was to give you a general consensus, the elementary is the majority, not all, want kids here, want to teach from here. I mean, they just know, especially lower elementary, how hard it is to teach virtually. And obviously, as you know, we've said several times, the stress that it puts on families. As a staff member, seeing these kids face to face fills my tank. Takes this crazy world and makes it better interacting. They take away my stress and not add to it. I need these kids. I need to see these kids face to face for my own mental health, interacting with them. What we need is stability. Half and half with consistent disruptions makes it very hard. If we were all virtual, I would have one target to shoot at and I could plan for it. In the time, kids could get used to the new normal.
That's something that I've always wondered, if that would be easier on the staff. I mean, like I said before, I want kids in school and I think that's the best for them, but is it going to be easier instead of this back and forth to just be virtual?
I mean, the back and forth is really hard. I'm not going to, it is. Unfortunately though, that especially if you get told you got a quarantine, you know, you got 14 days in your back, or I just don't want parents to think it and use it as a convenience And, but does it make sense if a person's got a doctor appointment and they're on the way and they can go on their phone and get their stuff in class? That's probably a good thing, right? However, and one suggestion that a staff member has is I wish you'd be more transparent with us and tell us what's going on. And, with the HIPAA and stuff, the laws that we have to follow, there's a lot of things that we can't share, but maybe there's some things that I can change. And right now we let staff know, like, for example, Billy Bob, he is out starting this date, he'll be back on this date, and it's a Google that we share to everyone. So that's handy, and that might change by the hour, so that is one thing that we have done this year that's really made a difference. Platteville, for example, I use Platteville again. They send out a thing every time there's a case, they send a thing out to I don't think they send it to the community, but all the parents. In the high school, we've had this many cases, middle school, we've had this many cases, elementary, we currently have this many cases. If we do that here, I think it's it wouldn't take kids long to figure out what's going on, or parents, as far as who it is. So I don't know if we can even do that here. If that's something that helps, we can try. I got this from a community member. Keep kids in school. Staff are essential workers. So, I think that's another one. Just saying my vote is to stay in person. That's from one. I don't know, does that help, Andrea? That's everything that was sent to me. So, I can tell you from our meeting, we're all staff, we're all aboard. You saw Todd. It's just like Todd and someone else's opinion here, right? That's where the staff is at too, depending on where you're at and how you feel. Obviously, maybe it depends a lot of times where your family member's at. If you had a family member that got it, you're probably in a different place. Maybe, I don't know, if you have a family member that works in the medical field and knows what they see every day, you're probably in a different place than other people. As we said right from the beginning, there is no perfect answer. There's not even a good answer, probably.
Do you have any staff members that would not work if we said we would need you to, we're gonna stay in school?
That refuse to, you mean?
Yeah.
Obviously we have one that's teaching from home, she's got, the doctor's note to,
right.
I have one that's really nervous about it. And if she probably could financially make it work, she probably wouldn't.
Okay.
I have, the other issue is the daycare thing. If we go all virtual, I have a staff member that says, I have no place to go with my kids. What am I supposed to do?
Which is exactly how most of the parents are as well.
Yeah, so we talked.
Feeling the same as any parent.
And then we have aides. What do we do with our aides? What do we do with our custodians? We talked about, it was brought up, is it possible that we have daycare for staff here so they can come in and teach? Have an aide run the daycare, we can keep the aide employed then, and then, but how would that look with the community? I know Riverdale approved that here this week, and they're doing that. If they go virtual, they're in person yet right now as we speak, but.
The thing with staff, if we go virtual, on a daycare, then they can go under this expanded family medical leave, and then we have to pay 2/3 of their wage, but then they're not gonna teach them.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna be on leave, getting 2/3 of their pay, then we have to get a sub on top of that, so we would do something to accommodate, like in basketball, we went through that scenario, so we said that only if it was a daycare thing, to avoid that situation, we'd allow them to teach from home. And the kids would be there and they have to do the best they can, otherwise it's just economically, we're paying double as a district, and so that's.
Do we get reimbursement though from
No.
COVID?
Oh, not yet, that's not, those extended days, there's no, they extended the 10 days, the 80 hours, and this other leave, there's no talk about getting that paid back, so that's additional
It's on the
costs.
district. So I
And now
guess
it is.
my thoughts would be is we stay in person up until our Thanksgiving break. And then after our Thanksgiving break, we do all high school and middle school virtual until the second week in September, because that's when then the holidays are officially over. And then I would say the
In
students.
January.
January,
Or, yeah, what did I say, February?
September.
I
You're
wish.
looking way ahead.
Yeah, but so then that second week in January, we would open back up after we've had that week off, whatever that looks like, because I don't have my January calendar in front of me right now. But then the little kids, so elementary, would stay in school that entire time, just the 6th through high school would go virtual for a month and a half, roughly.
Is there a way during that time, because I mean, that sounds like pretty reasonable, but is there a way during that time, Josh and Bryce, that you can request that families let you know their status with illnesses and such? Because, like, if I'm home with my kids and one of us gets COVID, I don't have any reason to tell anybody. Like, my kids are home, my husband's self-employed, we don't have, I know that a lot of you work places where you would have to report that, this and that. So, like, how would you know when you were coming back into it if you didn't have, like, a whole bunch of people that should be quarantined and aren't, and they're coming back?
It's not a legal obligation
Right,
for
they
them
don't,
to tell you that.
right, they don't have to tell us anything if they don't want to, right?
But could you request that?
Oh, definitely, we would request that, because we'd want to know, where everyone's at, how everyone's doing, right? And obviously, we're gonna request that if you have symptoms, especially if it's that week before we start school, that you not come in and let us know where you're at, if you've been tested. Because obviously, right now, even if a kid we ask that comes in and says, hey, I'm not feeling good, I have 2 or more symptoms, and we send them home, they don't have to we can't make them get tested. But if they don't get tested, we according to our county, we have to assume that they have it, so we have to quarantine them for 14 days. Or 10 days if they assume they have it, and then obviously the family members, how all that works starts after that. So, yeah, we would definitely request that. If someone was at home and they got it, right? When we started this thing, Iowa County told us at the beginning of this, before school started, if someone gets it, we will handle it from there. We will make the contacts, we will let the people know, we will let you know who you have to get, because they will talk to that person, they will find out who the close contacts are, and then they'll let us know, and they'll let us know who has to come out and be quarantined. Since then, that has all gone on to us, and mostly Barb and Sharon, where, we are making the contacts, we're doing this now, we're letting staff know, we're letting students know when they come back, we're letting them know which family members or all the family members and when they start, when they end, because the county is at a point where
They don't have the manpower.
they don't have the manpower to do it, so that's on us. Now, I'm not saying we have the manpower to do it, but obviously it is what it is. So unfortunately, that was asked at the staff meeting today too. When we started this, Iowa County was gonna be the one to tell us whether we have to shut down or not. And we just didn't say, we're gonna go, if the county tells us we gotta shut down, we'll shut down, right? Well, the county hasn't mandated that, but there's a lot of heat coming on both ends to stay open, and why are you still here type of stuff, all over the board stuff again. So I thought at the beginning of the year, say, well, at least we don't have to make that decision. They're gonna tell us, it's gonna be mandated, we shut down, or it's not, and we not. I'm glad that they don't, to be honest with you. I don't want, my opinion, I don't want government or the county telling us what we can and can't do. I love the recommendations. Obviously, again, we go to a meeting every week because every district's different, every community's different. We're not the same, as Middle Point, Darlington, and those, whatever.
Greg and Brent? You got any thoughts for us?
Everybody's comments, does anybody have the crystal ball? I don't think any of us do. This is tough. This is really tough, but I as a parent, and just me as a board member, I can't tell Andy or Brent or Todd or any of you guys. I can't say, hey, well, you should be doing this, or any family in this that's in our district. I mean, that's one thing I learned early on in this is, you got to respect everybody's decision, what they're doing as a family. And then for me, for my family, it seems like it's a daily, hourly, weekly decision-making process, moving parts. I've seen great things in the extra that the staff is doing. I have concerns. I watch what they do. I watch the extra things at the end of the days, at the beginning of the days when I drop kids off, getting kids out of school, making sure they're safe. I can't say that enough. I know everybody else has kind of said that, but I've witnessed that too. And as someone that is, I'm working virtual myself. I have been since March 13th. Blessed and fortunate for my job that I'm able to do that. And I've witnessed my own kids. I see what goes on with the virtual. I listen when I'm on a break or something. I listen. I see what's good. I'm here. Amber self-employed. Yeah, we can try to keep kids on task. But I do see when virtual and being in school that some of the back and forth the teachers have to try to keep managing that. Josh, you made comments about that. I see it. I understand, but I still believe that those decisions, each family has to make those decisions. Like I said, right now it's weekly, maybe even daily. So that's tough. And I don't have a good answer for that. And I do not want to compare us to other school districts because I believe we are Highland and we are our own voice, our own, we're our own district. But other districts that have gone virtual, that are virtual right now, obviously and Josh, I don't know if you made comment about that, what are they doing? I know, right now, if you've got an elective, like tech ed classes or something like that, I know, when you're supposed to be in Intro to Woods, but I know, Mr. McCauley has, he's doing virtual for him, but is that, and FIAD and things like that, and what are other districts doing with if they're virtual and extra, in sports and all that? What's the recommendation there with all that? If we do go virtual, what happens with all those things?
Iowa County is recommending that you end all extracurricular activities until at least December 4th. In the meeting today was asked by a superintendent, says, well, at December 4th and right before Christmas, are you thinking that it'll be lifted? And she honestly said, no, I don't think it would be. So the recommendation probably when it gets closer to it will again be no sports. Grant County, I know when talking with the superintendent at Riverdale, well, actually Bryce, obviously you can speak that better than I, but they're recommending no school, no sports. As far as what school districts are doing that are virtual, some are still having sports, some are not. I think Minter Point they're still having sports. I know they are. They're virtual completely now. Fenimore is still having sports. They're virtual. I honestly don't know of a district off the top of my head that has canceled sports. I know the Scenic Bluffs is talking about it. They haven't made the decision yet as far as I know, at least I haven't heard, but I know that was on the table. That would be the closest one to us there would be Hillsborough, because I know Hillsborough has already asked the Ridge and Valley if they could join them for the winter sports, because if the Scenic Bluffs goes through with it and cancels it. So, as you know, Dane County, the Big Eight and all the schools in Dane County had 0 sports this winter. So that's about where it's at. I really, all the schools in the 6 rivers in our conference are having sports. Like I said, I don't know of any that aren't other than the Dane County one. I don't know, does that help, Greg, or?
No, I just wanted to, I mean, that's all part of the discussion, I guess.
And I know we're talking about that next, and our next thing, it's winter sports update, so that is something that we're gonna wanna discuss and see where we go with that. Do we wanna continue? Do we wanna hold on it until after the new year, see where it's at? I don't know. That's.
Okay.
Brent, you got any thoughts to share with us?
Yeah, it's kind of tough for me since I don't have any kids in there. I feel kind of awkward about saying too much, but I started out leaning a little more towards Todd. If Iowa County is recommending, virtual, I definitely think the elementary kids need to stay in there. I've been in and out a lot of houses, in my job, and I haven't really came across many stories where parents are having success, especially at the elementary level. But then the more I sit here and think about it, my kids, when they're in school, especially middle school, I think it really would have been a struggle. And I would have wanted them in the building as much as possible. So, it's, like I said, it's just really tough. And I think it's tough on the teachers trying to do it both ways. But like I said, I just feel awkward saying too much since I don't have a kid directly in there. But, most of you probably know I'm home with this right now. And if I didn't take a test, I wouldn't have a clue, and I'd probably be in there in person in the meeting with you guys right now, and who knows how many people it could be getting spread around to. So, like I said, there's no good answer, but I do like leaving it in the parents' hands as much as possible.
Well, thanks, Brent. Your opinion is just as valuable as everybody else's. Sometimes without having a kid here, it's even easier to have a unbiased opinion. And I think from the kids' standpoint, I think it's obvious that the kids want to be in school, the ones that are able to, and they have the option to not be here. So from a kid's perspective and a family's perspective, offering in person makes sense. It's more the staff that, I'm concerned about as far as whether we switch to virtual or not is really a question of protecting the staff. The kids, the parents are making those decisions and already have a virtual option. So I think we all know that it's good for kids to be here, and I'm just like everybody else, I'm just concerned about the staff and putting them in different positions. One question I have for you, Josh, is those 2 days between before Thanksgiving that week, how are we on hours of instruction? If we use those as professional days to prepare for another week of virtual, the week after Thanksgiving, and that way you would have a full 2-week break from school rather than coming in. I know everybody talks about Thanksgiving and get-togethers, but the Saturday before Thanksgiving, there's probably more get-togethers around this state than any other time ever. So, I think those 2 days, it makes sense if we're worried about people getting exposed during gatherings to come back. And again, if we took those 2 days off or switched them either virtual or professional development day to get ready for virtual, and then at least have that next weekend, maybe it does go all the way through the Christmas holiday, but maybe we just plan on the week after Thanksgiving and see what things are like. That's 3 weeks from now. And every time we've done this in the past, it seems like things change, day by day. It's kind of going week by week now, but.
I have to say though, I mean, we're saying that things are constantly changing, and they are, but in regards to the cases, they have always gone up.
Yes.
So I think, I'm only vouching for the whole, I just really think staying virtual for the whole month of December is really our best option for multiple reasons. One, like you say, the week before is mostly always Thanksgiving gatherings. Granted, they're recommending not to do that, but that that's not gonna stop everyone. And then, I'm sorry, but a lot of people, if I was looking at my calendar today, before COVID, I would have a Christmas, no joke, every single Saturday with a family, because I have split families. So that could be the case for a lot of children around here, because unfortunately, split families are a real thing. So, I mean, if you're thinking that, you know, you're gonna go back to school December 7th, the Saturday after the first Saturday in December, and no one has gone to a family function, you're mistakenly probably wrong, and the cases are going to go up. It's not what I wanna hear either, because I prefer my children to be in school as well. But I'm trying to think, like, and it gives everybody a happy medium in regards to you're setting out, this is what's gonna happen. This is how we're gonna handle it. Instead of like this flip, oh, now we're gonna flop back, then we're gonna flip. Because you're just giving the teachers even more anxiety over what week we're gonna be in school and what week we're not, knowing that the cases are going to go up. I mean, I think it's silly of us to think that it's not. Because they've gone up since day one. That's
Let's
fine.
say we did that and miraculously they went down. I mean, you could certainly change that and decide to go back to school. Like if you decided to go with what Katrina is proposing, it doesn't mean it's set in stone, and you couldn't
Right.
change it if things got really good for some reason.
Right.
So as far as what you're asking, Mike, and then as far as minutes, we were pretty tight on minutes
Right.
considering the virtual Fridays that we put in, because we didn't have kids in the afternoons, we didn't have them at all. But if we can count the minutes, Mr. Bird, because we had kids here that, you know, anyone that was failing class, we had to come in and get work. If we can count those afternoons, because we do have kids here, and not have to count that afternoon as no kids, you know, then we would be in pretty good shape. But if that's the decision that we go with, as far as after Thanksgiving, we go for that week, and if we add those 2 days, that Monday and Tuesday of Thanksgiving week, I would definitely want to move that to a professional day and not a virtual day. And let staff prepare, give them those 2 days. I think that would be huge.
We're able to get a waiver of minutes of instruction.
And technically with the charter school, yeah, we can kind of do what we want, but we've always been under the, you know, hey, yeah, I know we can, but we still want to, you know,
Right,
we don't want
right.
to kind of,
We don't
I don't
want,
know, I don't want to say cheat the system, but.
What about those virtual Fridays? We have 2 in December. What if we make those obviously not virtual Friday? I mean, they're virtual Fridays, but not that half day of instruction. Can we add that 8-hour day of instruction into those minutes that you're?
We could,
How many
I don't want to do that, only in the sense, well, if we're going virtual, I guess we wouldn't have to worry about it altogether.
Right, that's what
but
I'm saying,
yeah.
yeah. Wouldn't be a.
You can count virtual days as days, yeah. Is that
Oh,
okay?
we are counting virtual days as
Yeah.
full days of
Oh, yeah.
instruction.
Yeah, I mean, we're counting them as instruction days, but it was only a half day previously. But like I said, if we have kids here getting work, it's kind of like when we had early or late start Wednesdays. We were able always to count, Nancy could always count those days because we've always had kids here getting stuff done. So, but, you know, I'm not even against if we want to give them more breaks in there and then extending the school year in I mean, I don't know, that'd probably go over like a fart in church with a lot of people, but I'm all right with that. It's you know, do what we have to do, but, I mean, are people leaning that? I mean, is that something that you guys, you know, do you want to look at going through until we get to Thanksgiving week? First 2 days, professional development days. After that, we're out until January? Is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying,
Yeah.
yes. That is what I'm
So
proposing.
go-
I guess my question would be is if we did that, does that ease the mind of the concerned staff?
It eases the mind of the staff that think we should be virtual. To a point.
And it eases the mind of anyone who is disappointed in having to teach virtual and in person. They are either all virtual,
That,
because we're all virtual for the whole month of all those stressful holidays, stressful time of the year anyway.
what about elementary kids? Are they,
I was saying they'd still be in school.
Okay.
That was my original proposal, would they still go to school that entire time? It would just be the high school and middle school that I was proposing would be virtual during all of this initially.
okay, so
Wouldn't you want the elementary kids virtual that week after Thanksgiving though? I mean, if in theory, if we're doing it because to try to keep the spread from
That's what the nurse says, that's what Sharon says.
And then let
Right.
them come back for December before Christmas?
Yeah. I think that's, I mean, and it gives everybody an idea of what they're coming up to. You know where you're gonna, a schedule.
But do we want to put ourselves out there that I'm hearing you, and Mike, you I had that thought in my mind about the next weekend. You're right about that. And so, if we look at the last 2 weeks of November, I mean, I respect what we're saying about going all the way through December, but I mean, like I said before, this in my world, and this is a daily, hourly thing that's going on here. I mean, if we do 2 weeks there and things are looking better, and we have the opportunity to get people back in the building. I mean, do we want to, just to go out that far just seems, again, this is why this is a tough decision, but I'm just trying to think this thing through all the way. I mean, I don't know what the right answer is, but just throwing it out there.
I'm in agreement with what Katrina's proposing, but my only question is, when we come back the second week in January, the staff that is concerned about being here right now, I'm guessing they're gonna be concerned with being back here at the same time when we come back.
Right. Well, I don't think that there's.
Now,
a
is
way
that
for us-
mental health part of it that that a few of them talked about? Obviously, it's gonna get them a break from it. They're lessening their workload. Everybody's virtual. They have one thing they have to teach, but, right down the line, it makes it easier for them. I get that. Okay, so then we're gonna come right back into it in the second week of January, and we're gonna be right back in the same spot we are right now.
Didn't somebody say earlier, did you guys say something about their, predicting that the spike will have gone down by then? Did you guys say that?
I think what Josh meant was, they're predicting that the peak is gonna be because of Thanksgiving, and then there's probably gonna be another peak because of Christmas.
Mhm.
I think this most recent surge or, increase will peak in 3 weeks. I don't know how they're predicting it's because of Thanksgiving, I'm guessing, but then obviously if that's the peak, they must think it's gonna go down, and then, yeah, as Penny said, probably back up again after Christmas.
My concern is if we switch to virtual for it's like 6 full weeks by the time we get through all that, it's the end of the quarter, where kids are trying to get their grades for the semester, and trying to do that virtually, it's gonna be very difficult to end the quarter that way. I really like the idea of a couple week break through December 4th, which is what they're right now kind of recommending, and then trying to come back to school before Christmas, and then see where we're at then, but
You'd have
that's,
2 weeks before Christmas, or 2 weeks
Two
and
and a
a few
half,
days. Yep.
and that would end the quarter, right, Josh? That's kind of the second quarter.
Technically it wouldn't, but we're having finals. Yes, it would. I mean, technically it doesn't until that first week in January back. However, that's not gonna be the finals before that. It's just to make the days work, so we're just doing some odds and ends after that as far as, depending on what class you're in.
But you would try getting final tests and stuff in before
Finals would be
Christmas.
done. Finals will be done before Christmas.
So then the
Here's just
kids
a
would be
couple
able
other
to be
comments.
there for finals.
I missed that, Andy. Sorry, go ahead.
So you're saying the kids, if we had them go back for those 2 weeks, they would be able to be there for finals,
Correct.
in theory?
I mean,
How
if you do
do
that,
you think that is on the teachers, Josh? The 2 weeks virtual, 2 weeks back? Like, as long as they know that's coming, do you think that's, less stressful than this back and forth, who's going to be here, who's going to not, am I going to be here,
A couple people mentioned today in the meeting that the 1 week when it was virtual was less stressful because they knew all week. Just the 1 week when the high school was virtual, how less stress that 1 week was, right, Josh?
They did. I mean,
2 people did.
two people mentioned it, and yeah, because like I said, you have everyone virtual and you're not teaching both, you're not worried about who's here, what's there, where's this kid at? All right, but the stress will come back in when, when we see how hard it is and the kids that we're losing, right?
Right.
Now, is
Right.
that stressful now because we lose kids when we're in person? Definitely, and that's what's gonna be. I definitely want to see kids back in school at the end of the semester, as far as if there's some kids that we can hopefully get them back where they're at, if that's the best thing. But what if we did what Mike said, we did that 2 weeks, right? And we look at it and say, hey, if things aren't any better, we gotta stay virtual. If things get better, to turn around, we know, hey, and we ask, as Andy said, we ask that you guys need to tell us as families where you're at. Are your kids doing well? Is everyone safe? Do we have a lot of people out with COVID right now? And then look at it again, if that's an option. Now, that's not as consistent, which is that one thing, staff, but, going on and then going off, we might be consistent, but we're still gonna have those families that, well, my kid's gonna, right, we're still gonna have those bouncing around. Through sometimes no fault of a family because they get quarantined, so. I got this from a staff member. I says, I don't know how I feel, 90% of the kids will do better in person. It's a fact. All right. It bothers me. I wish teachers would say more how they really feel. Because we did a mental health thing. We sent out a Google sheet and said, how you doing mentally, how you feeling? Staff didn't really, some did, but some didn't do a whole lot with that. It's hard for me. I don't mind helping out. But that's part of the job that sucks the most, trying to cover people and no one to do it. I didn't accomplish any of the work that I needed to get done because I'm always covering for someone else. My suggestion is all virtual on Monday until the week after Thanksgiving. Let everyone get a feel for it and see if it's as bad as they think. See if people's mental health declines or elevates because of it. At least it's consistent effort and plans to re-meet in a few weeks and see what direction we want to go from there. That's kind of what we were talking about. Fenimore just said that they are going virtual until December 7th, and then they're starting this Friday. I just got a text, the Chronicle is saying that Dodgeville is continuous sports and Iowa Grand's continuous sports, even though they're both virtual. I think you need to define better so there's a clear expectation one way or the other when December 4th rolls around, if that's a plan. So this person, that's on here listening, says, if you're going to do that, what is going to be the plan? I mean, if we do what I suggested, hey, let's take a look at it and see where we're at. Well, what's the criteria that we're going to use? Is it if one person has COVID, let's stay out? If two staff, if there's, where is that median or where is that threshold that we need to cross?
Right now, we're not even considering, it's not even about the cases here, it's about what Iowa County is recommending. So it would be just what Iowa County recommends again and how the cases are, right?
Well, they really don't, it depends on the situation.
I'm saying criteria wise.
Well, but we
Yeah.
have had to shut down because we didn't have staff just last week. And we have tons of kids home right now quarantined because of that don't have it. And we have lots of parents at home that have it. So, I mean, it's not that we don't have it.
No, that's not what I meant. But I'm just saying, like, in regards to the criteria as to why we would go back to virtual after December 4th, as this message was just sent, is, like, we don't actually have criteria as to why we go virtually. We just go virtually because of how it affects us as a school. And right now, we're having this conversation because of an Iowa County recommendation, nothing about what's going on here in school. So there is no real criteria as to why we're going virtually. Right?
Yeah,
It's
the only
just
reason we
because
went
of
virtual
Iowa
last time is because we didn't have the staff at the high school to cover everything. It was not a student COVID issue.
Right.
Well, it
Josh,
probably never will be a student COVID issue based on, the trend.
Let's hope, right?
Josh and Bryce, I mean, Josh, what you just read, I was gonna ask that before, is if you had to flip the switch to go virtual starting next Monday, you could do it, right?
Next Monday, if we had to switch to virtual, could we do it? that what you asked?
That's what I'm
We could
asking.
probably do it easier for us than parents gearing up, right?
Yeah, I always told staff that if we had to go, and if it's a, I did not give staff a day when we went for just that one Thursday, if you remember that. I said, hey, we're going, we're not I'm not giving you a day to do 1-2 days. But for that week, I gave the high school staff the Monday to prepare, and that was huge. I think, as Mike mentioned before, if we do the thing that was talked about, as far as those 2 days before Thanksgiving break, I would like to move those 2 days to professional days to get staff 2 days to prepare. And then, obviously we'll have all that Thanksgiving break. Now, it sounds like there's a little difference in opinion when we come back, whether we stay all of December and then try it in January, or we come back in December at some point. I like the idea of coming, or, if we want to do the virtual thing, coming back and at least looking at it. But I think the person that texted that's a great idea. What parameters need to be in place to do that?
Well, the parameters on that are really hard because a lot of different
Correct.
schools have used gating criteria from communities and stuff like that. And again, the only data we have is Iowa County, which doesn't really explain Highland. And if we're off for 3 weeks, what criteria do we have as far as what spread is in the school or with students? It obviously isn't coming from the school at that point. And so it gets to be really difficult to rely on computers, or you end up as a number 3 seed in a 4-person bracket. So that's a problem. It's nice to have those criteria, but I know some of the criteria that was set months ago has been blown away by the current caseload everywhere, and so I appreciate that comment, and I wish I had the criteria that would give us the answer, but I don't think we have that.
I don't think you'll ever have that.
Well, one thing here I want to make sure I get to so you guys hear it. You went back to, I think, Andy, you asked, and then we mentioned about the contacts and how that's done. Remember, we got pushed to, I shouldn't say push, but asked the staff or the school district to do it. But the county calls us if we have a student or a parent with a positive case, and then now they change it and they ask parents to call, and then the county follows up. So the parents call us, tell us the situation they're supposed to, and then we figure out who has to be quarantined, they go out, and then the county follows up with them. The recommendation, and this is the recommendation to go virtual from the county is due to the current status of our county's numbers and our healthcare facilities that are overwhelmed. We're being asked to decrease gatherings and contacts. Another one's, this is a teacher that says back and forth is the mistake. It's more stressful for everybody. It's going to take time to adjust and make it work. So bouncing back and forth is what's the hardest.
So when they say bouncing back and forth, is that what we're experiencing now, or is bouncing back and forth us going virtual and then coming back for 2 weeks in person and then going back virtual for 2 weeks? Like, what do they mean by it?
Yeah, I guess they didn't really.
But in the meeting today, part of what they were talking about were, kids are quarantined and then they're back in, and then some kids decide they're gonna be out. It was that kids back and forth.
Yeah.
Was part of
So
it.
the only way to ever get that gone is to go virtually. We are never gonna keep every student in this school every day because of COVID. They have to quarantine. They come in contact with somebody.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
2 weeks on and 2 weeks off is what this teacher was saying. That's
not
not the answer. 2 weeks on, we talk about 2 weeks on, 1 week off. That it's consistent, but it's not.
consistent enough, unfortunately.
Well, I feel like the other that if you don't do that, you have to go virtual. Like you can't, because the staying on and being so up and down is worse.
Right.
By giving them 2 weeks in person, that at least is good for the kids, where they get back into school and see their teachers and are able to get that instruction. And I don't know.
Well, I think we would, if you're looking at a time frame, though, the county is recommending to December 4th. They're not extending it to January yet, but they would decide then, again, to push out farther. May very well just push it out, but my thinking too is go to that December 4th, and then in that time frame, you decide to continue, or we come back in until Christmas break, and then we're out again in January. Even that, I mean, that's against what that teacher's saying, but I think, like what Mike said, it's a long time to extend all the way to second week in January, to me.
And it's a
But I
long
think the
time for those
bouncing-
kids that don't do well with
Yeah.
virtual.
I think the bouncing back and forth is really hard on staff, and especially with kids being in and out. But I can guarantee you it's easier on the kids to be out for a couple weeks and then come back and be in school for a couple weeks and get caught up and get settled down and be able to talk to their teacher and see their friends and then take another break than just to be out the whole time. But again, that's a discussion between students and staff. Todd, you got something for us?
I was just gonna ask, as far as if we go virtual, whenever that may be, whether it's now or 2 weeks from now or whatever, do we still have that option that the kids that are struggling with the D's and F's, especially in the middle school, high school range? I know like previously they were coming in on those virtual Fridays, those students were supposed to be coming in to get additional help. So if we went virtual for a long period of time, can those D's and F students still get in once or twice a week to get that additional instruction, or is that still going to be more stress for the, I mean, if they have 2 kids in front of them and the rest are all virtual, is that better than all the kids in front of them and then 3 kids virtual at home right now? I mean,
Yeah, I think, great question, Todd, and that's another thing I wanted to bring up. We would definitely have to and want to, any student that has an IEP, for one, if they have an IEP that needs to be met, and the only way we can do it is in person to person, and have them in the building, we're gonna have them in the building. If you take a shop class, if we want a kid to get the shop class and do it right, we should probably have them in the building. Band, how do you teach band virtually? Right, we had to cancel, I shouldn't say cancel, but alter Veterans Day because virtually didn't work with the high school, and you can't, it just didn't work. So having that option is a great idea. However, it is gonna, if we're all virtual, then it gets back to that blended again, and how much stress it adds on top, that's a tough question. I really can't answer that. If there's one kid sitting there, obviously, when you're teaching virtual, a lot of times the teacher teaching virtual, they're here at their desk, they're not moving around. So you're sitting here talking to you, and you got a kid over here, so, okay, you got, I don't know, so. But I definitely want, or maybe we do, or we have a day where, we do a virtual Friday, even though we're all virtual, we do virtual half days, and those come in every other week. The half of that Friday, those kids still come in, and they're in person, just getting individual help. Where the kids aren't online at that time, but if you have an F in this class, you are in that classroom that Friday afternoon, every other Friday, getting additional help, one out in person. Unless obviously, if it's a parent that will not bring their kid, and that's a whole different world, but.
Well, then comes though, how do you get your child there?
Yeah,
Because like for me, I mean, if I got a kid who
if it's
needs
a
it,
middle school kid, yeah,
how do you get it
we could talk, I guess can we get a bus route
on virtual Fridays?
on a virtual afternoon? I don't know.
Sure, because we'd be paying them, otherwise not gonna get paid.
Right.
They would.
That's right, because if we're going virtual, we don't need the buses. And then
So when we
we really got to get parents on board with picking stuff up that needs to get out and get back here, especially at those younger ages. Parents got to get on board with. We got to do a better job working together to get stuff out and get stuff back and be consistent that way too. High school, it's really not an issue. We can do almost all of that electronically, passing stuff back and forth, or we don't need to. Hard copies
Is
on
that
stuff.
something aides can do, is to take stuff to houses and drop it off? I think
We
that I heard
can,
one district do
yeah.
that.
We can, some of them are, I can do that, that's not a problem, virtually, obviously, my job is totally different now, right? I can do that. Some staff are pretty uncomfortable with that, which I understand, so I can take care of that.
What do you mean they're like uncomfortable with that?
Just uncomfortable going to someone's house, dropping stuff off, just the contact.
Okay. I mean, it'd be way less contact than having all the kids in school.
They don't like adults apparently.
All right. We are pretty vicious.
So we're talking about in school next week.
If virtual is an option we want to take, I would recommend we go till that Monday of Thanksgiving week. Stay in person, because right now we got everyone coming back. We're in pretty good shape. I think we can make it. And then if that's something we want to do, then I would suggest we take that Monday and Tuesday, change it to professional days. Give all the staff time. If you're going to have everyone out the week after Thanksgiving and then bring the elementary back, go that way. Or bring the elementary back right away. I don't know, but is that where we're leaning? Or
It's so hard.
I think that's the big question is, would the elementary be out that week or in school the week after Thanksgiving?
okay, so we're talking going virtual then for middle high school for sure,
That week after Thanksgiving, I think,
or just that week now?
well,
And
the week before. Yep, and the 2 days.
All right, and
That's
then,
professional. I think, Josh, if I can try to wrap our heads around this, those 2 days between the opener of gun season and Thanksgiving, that Monday and Tuesday, switching those to professional days to prepare for virtual, I think would be a good idea.
So then what you're saying is the week of the 30th through December 4th is all virtual.
That's my question is, do we want that all virtual or just the middle school and high school?
Well, if the reason we're doing it is because of all of the contacts that the kids will be having, then it makes sense for them all to be virtual.
All of them.
Well, and that's my question. So if you have a student that's in middle school and you have a student that's in elementary school of the same family, then technically that student that's in elementary should be staying home then as well.
Right.
Right.
So I think if you're gonna do it, I think you gotta do the whole thing for that entire week.
Right. And then after that, if we still feel like we need the elementary or the high school and middle school to stay home, depending on what's going on at that time, you could make that decision. But the goal, it would be for sure to get the elementary kids back the 7th.
So if
I
that's
think
what
that is
we-
one, oh, go ahead, Todd.
Oh, sorry. If that is what we went with, would we be looking at it on a full board meeting again, like right before that week to discuss how things are, or are we making that decision now, or how's that decision going to get made for after that week after Thanksgiving?
We could move the December board meeting up a week.
How do we just have a special board meeting at the end of the month?
Couple things.
I guess move it up would be great.
Not have one meeting.
I would move it up, not have another one.
That's where it's going.
Sorry.
couple things that I want to share that I keep getting things into me, I want to make sure people that come in get heard. Elementary should be out the week after Thanksgiving due to family gatherings. They are attending the same family gatherings as their older siblings.
Right.
This person gave me an example. She has a daughter that goes to a school. If they're going virtual and your grades are low, you have to report to a study hall, a guided study hall, where you can get one-on-one help. So virtually. So that's one thing we can look at if we are virtual and we have low grades. You have to report this. If you have good grades, you don't have to report, for example. You can give them a break from it, right? This person said the county is recommending we go virtual now because hospitals are full now. I'm not sure it makes sense to wait until Thanksgiving.
We're all healthy right now.
Yeah.
I wish there was a way, this different person, I wish there was a way that if the elementary stays in person, that we could have an aide or someone work with those kids that are virtual so it's not so stressful on our teachers. I know some teachers get very stressed when they have kids that are virtual. And we're not getting around that. Either we're gonna have some or all. I mean,
Exactly. There's no way around that.
Is that something that you guys have discussed? I know that other districts are doing virtual differently than we are. I know a lot of them don't have the whole 8-hour in-person virtual classes. They do like, they record their lessons or they just check in and then they go out. You know, there's all sorts of different ways they're doing it. Have you guys looked at changing that up or?
we did, we talked about if we go all virtual, that instead of doing the 4-hour days, go back to the 8-hour days, so a kid's not in one class for an hour and a half virtually. You know, that's something we can look at. However, the reason, and we actually talked about doing that second quarter in person as well, but the big issue is our aides and trying to get them spread out enough to get everyone the help that they need. It's so much easier for our aides to cover all the kids that we need to cover when it's only 4 hours a day instead of 8. So virtually, obviously, no, that's not as, because we're not in person, obviously, that we can do a little better at that. But so that's one thing we looked at. We also talked about, if we're all virtual, what is that going to do to our internet in the community? Is it really going to bog down? So we talked about, if it's K-12 and the elementary is out as well, that we would have sections of time. So the elementary is going to be online from 8 to 10, middle school 10 to noon, and then high school, just an example, noon to 3. And then the other times you are working on your assignments. So classes are a lot shorter, you get your instruction in, and then that way those family, now everyone's on the elementary or on the internet at the same time, and you can have older people that could help the younger kids, especially the same family. And you could actually ask our high school kids to watch the elementary kids in certain houses so they can still go to work, and we can get the elementary kids online, and the older kids can help them with that. So that was.
So would you make that change for this time that we're talking about now?
I wouldn't make that change yet unless we had to, as far as the different slots of times, unless we know it was really bogging down and really going slow and we just can't get anything done. We'd have to. The 8-hour change would not be I would want that 2 days that we're talking about to get ready and get parents prepared, but that one, we have an 8-hour schedule ready now. As far as the amount of time online, every district's different. You know, obviously Fenimore, for example, their kids, elementary all the way through high school, are expected to be on the entire time. Even their lower elementary, you're expected to be on. You don't know, they give breaks in there, but it's an 8 to 3 day for them, so.
That's one of the hard things, the comment about if we go virtual with just middle and high school and not elementary, they're the same families. And that was just kind of my question before, as to the recommendations from Iowa County about elementary is okay, but not middle and high school, when they are the same families. And it's just a different situation we got with the smallest school as it is. You know, we're half the kids there will be here anyway. So I guess, Josh, I would support the 2 days before Thanksgiving being professional days and that week after Thanksgiving being all virtual. And maybe we need to get together back again, Todd, that first Wednesday in December and see where we're at.
You're talking the whole school the week after, right? Mike,
Yep.
is what you're thinking?
Yep.
And 2 days of professional development before that, in that week?
December 2nd meeting. Board meeting.
Yes, you have a board meeting on December 2nd.
And then going as is till Thanksgiving, till that week? Anyone else want to add to that, or have a different, something we want to look at?
I think we're all shared what we're thinking. I think we just have to come down to a vote and then agreeing and get something down. We all have different thoughts and ideas and perspectives, and they're all legit, and they're all very good reasons.
So do you want that on the next board meeting as an agenda item then? Vote on it?
So I guess my question is, are we voting now to say this is what we want to do?
Well, there's really nothing, right? We can't.
So-
vote it now, can we?
So I guess, I mean, the schedule revision is on the agenda, so we
Yeah.
can vote on it, but we
Yeah.
have not voted since day one about being virtual or in person, because you guys need to have the flexibility of, the week that you guys shut down and went virtual, we didn't have a meeting and vote on that. You know, we've been doing this a little bit by consensus. I want people to be able to voice their opinions and express their disagreement, and I hope that we can kind of, even though that not everybody agrees with how we're moving forward, that they're at least okay with it. But that's kind of how we've been trying to handle this, because as soon as we vote and something changes, and now all of a sudden next week, we've got a couple of cases and staff out and we want to shut down, we just voted to stay open next week.
Yeah.
And so that just doesn't work, I don't think, to have us voting every time we're closing or opening. So I think it's good for you guys to come back and talk about this every meeting that we have, and we can provide our input to you. But, you know, it's difficult for us to make those decisions just every time.
Okay, so we're going to plan a meeting session next week. The following Monday and Tuesday, we have 2 professional days, no students attend. The week after Thanksgiving, we're all virtual.
K-12.
Right, all kids, and then we decide if we continue that on. I mean, we'll plan a meeting the December 2nd. And that could be, I guess that's 2 weeks, or that could be just a special board meeting and we just talk about that mainly. And, won't be as long, and then that's on a Wednesday. We decide how we continue, we go back to regular or. Okay.
Is there any Josh, you put out a lot of messages, you know, and just I guess just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, I don't know. I think it's just from us too. I don't know if there's a way to word it correctly, but to keep encouraging families to stay safe during the holidays. I mean, obviously we can't tell people. No, we're not. I mean, we can't tell people. We can recommend and hope that people realize the importance, like you've been doing all along, to keep our kids in school. You know, to try to be safe. You know, and what Andy was saying too before. If you're not feeling well, if you're sick, to let us know. You know, and I don't know. I'm just trying to add to that. You know, we're trying to make these decisions and move forward, but at the same time, try to be the voice and encourage everybody to try to stay the course so we can. Our end goal is to definitely keep our kids in school and keep our staff and everybody safe as we possibly can. So I don't know if that helps at all, but it's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. I know I've been sending a lot of that stuff out, and, you know, I've been starting to wonder if, you know, I've been sending too much of that out, and people are just saying, not another thing from the school. You guys, is that right, or?
Keep doing it.
I think it's good.
Have communication.
I personally read each and every one of them just to make sure that I'm current with what's going on.
Yep, me too.
All right.
I appreciate it.
All right, so we're gonna need to be flexible with staff too. I just wanna let you guys know that, you know, with other schools going virtual, if we're in or if we're not, you know, we have issues on both sides of this. If we're all virtual, I have problems with staff and covering because of kids, they're young kids. And if other schools aren't, and we have issues with staff that aren't live here. So we're gonna have to try to be, I hope you guys are okay with that, and be as flexible as we can. And some teachers are gonna have to teach virtually when we have kids here and vice versa. So just to give you guys the heads up, I don't want you to think that, you know, they're, anyway, I just want to let you know.
I'd just like to make one notation. I realize that the meeting is going to be December 2nd for, decision amongst after December 4th. I do have a personal meeting with my daughter for her own issues with what's going on in this world. And so I will have to attend that meeting virtually. I will probably be attending it from my vehicle while she's in her appointment. Just so you know. That's why I wasn't at the meeting last time. Some stuff had come up, so.
Anybody else have anything to add before we move on to the next item? Winter sports update.
Do we want to have them?
It doesn't get any easier.
No.
I guess we should probably determine that before I tell you what's going on. I maybe want to hear first, but. I had a Six Rivers meeting, ADs met the week before, so obviously this has not gone to the superintendent yet, and that's the final vote, so that'll be Mr. Bird next week where they put this stuff in place. Obviously every team in the conference right now is moving forward with winter sports. As far as basketball, some conferences have revised their schedule and not doing near the non-conference games. So we did lose for our boys and girls basketball teams. We did lose some conference games. We were able to pick some of them back up, but we were able to, right now you can have 26 games. We are at 19 right now for the girls and pretty close to the same for the boys. So I let Ms. Mitchick know that, hey, ask some of these non-conference teams that we're still on, see if they want to play home and away. Let's play 2 with them. Riverdale, for example, has been a great, I'm just speaking for the girls, a great game for us. I haven't beat them lately, but I'm thinking this is the year we play it. But anyway, let's play home away. It's close, let's do that. So hopefully we'll pick up some more games. And if we can get as many as we can, because we probably know some games probably have to be canceled or, not able to get in. 2 tickets per athlete is all I could get. I voted against that. I wanted to get 4, but it didn't pass. Some gyms aren't big enough to hold 4 tickets per athlete. I did get it where the coaches can get it to 2 tickets though, so they can have family members come and watch. So it's a lot like volleyball that way, 2 tickets home and away. So that didn't change. Conference is determined by winning percentage this year. So they do want to do a conference championship. It's determined by winning percentage, and you have to play each conference team once. So I don't know, it was brought up, there was an issue with the volleyball on the east side where a team was supposed to make up some games, but they only scheduled teams that had losing record, and I guess it got a little heated over there. The west side, we didn't have a conference championship, or we did, but I don't think there was an issue. It was pretty cut and dry. Wrestling, however, is, my opinion, is not right. There was a board of control meeting last Wednesday. I have not heard the results of that yet. I don't know if that's even public yet. I have not. Coach Allen has been pretty in-depth in attending a lot of that stuff. But right now we have like 7 or 8 matches total for the wrestlers. And right now there is no tournaments. So what we're worried about is kids choosing not to wrestle high school and just go wrestle club. And I can definitely understand why you'd want to. If they're only going to get 7 teams that we can wrestle against, you can get 7 matches in a weekend at a tournament. And, compared to what kids can wrestle now, I've seen kids at the state tournament that got close to even over 50 matches. And now we're talking like 7. They don't have anything in place right now for a tournament as far as individual or state. That's up in the air. Obviously Madison, Dane County is out of the question right now. I don't see that changing. So that's a problem. As far as masks have to be worn by girls basketball, boys basketball, and wrestling right now. That's during practices and during play the entire time. That's gonna be difficult for some people. I don't know, I was not a wrestler, but I do not know how you wrestle and keep your mask on. You know, obviously headgear gets up around, you know, half the time, so, you know, it's just, unfortunately for the wrestlers, there's nothing that's looking promising as far as the high school level right now. We are scheduled, we got the matches scheduled, we got everything in place as far as that go. Practices can still start, we got all that set up. Mr. Tucker was approved at the Iowa Grant board meeting on Monday night to be assistant coach. He's got his CDL now, bus driver's license, so he can take our kids over. We do have enough kids from Highland that we are going to use a bus, need it. It's gonna save us a lot of money since he is the coach. We don't have to, you know, it's gonna save the district because we're paying him as a coach and then we're just paying for his drive time. Well, Worco then bills us, but we're not getting in charge for the time where, for example, if I was to take him over, I'm not helping coach, I would get paid the entire time. You know what I mean? So that's gonna help a lot. But I just feel bad for the grapplers because 7 matches, you know, and then the other problem is, let's say we schedule whatever, it doesn't matter. I mean, let's say we scheduled basketball. Basketball hasn't had a full team in the recent years. So we go down there, we wrestle basketball. That is a match that you have. So if you get a forfeit, obviously it's a winning your record, but you're not wrestling a match. Now you're down to 6, you know? So it's a thing that I would think hope would change here for those, and they can at least allow maybe a tournament or two, something. But that's where wrestling's at right now. Questions on that?
Josh, is the mask mandate for the basketball, wrestling, all that's coming from WIA?
Yes, I brought up at the meeting, Six Rivers meeting, and this is one thing I want to stress too about following this. How about we have the matches, like for instance, a wrestling match, if you're wrestling, you're not wearing it, but as soon as you sit back down and you're watching, the mask has to go on. Same with basketball, you're playing, let them take the mask off. When they come back out, sit on the bench, they gotta be back on, kind of like you see in football now, right? That was voted down. And the reason it was voted down is because the WA is saying that all tournaments or all postseason play will have mandatory masks worn all the time. The question that I asked with this is, do we have to be concerned with, you know, you take basketball or wrestling, man, you got a heavyweight, that's a big boy, right? And if he were to, or she were to, you know, get in wrestling, you're exhausted and they pass out, something happens because they have this mask on, they can't get air. Are we looking at getting our butt in the sling, you know, insurance-wise, or because we're not covered, or we get sued, right? But the WA is making it and they're saying that it is required. So I would assume that would cover us. And if the WA is requiring it, how can they sue us? We're doing what we're told by the WIA. So I think we're covered that way, Greg. So that is coming down from the WA, yes.
And for practices too, right? That's what you're saying. And competition. Yeah. I mean, that's, wow.
Obviously they did it in volleyball. Football, it was not mandated because they're outside. Some teams did wear masks for football, make their teams do that. One thing that the conference is stressing this year, and it's no secret that we had a team in the Six Rivers with volleyball, that their board said, we're not doing that. We're allowing more fans to come in. We're going to have a concession stand. So that kind of rubbed some schools the wrong way, I can see. So we stress that this time, and what the superintendents are going to talk about is, should teams go play them if they're not going to follow what the conference decides? You know, and this school has to be okay with that. If you want to do your own thing, you have every right to. However, if the conference is voting on this and we're trying to be consistent because we don't want teams pitting or schools pitting each other against each other, and you're going to do something different, then you have to be prepared that says, well, then we're not going to come play you. So
I guess I would say that if they're actually doing that, then the school that's supposed to be coming to play them, I'd say they forfeit the game and it's an automatic win for the opposing team.
I mean, that would be a superintendent call. I don't know if you can do that or not. I'm sure the school that would be able to say, wait a minute, we're not canceling the game, you guys are.
No, you're saying that you're not following what was set by the
Right.
the Six Rivers Conference. You're not following those rules. Then I'd say then you forfeit the game.
The other thing on that note is too, non-conference games is different. So if we're playing a team from the Ridge and Valley and they don't have that order and we do, I said that really puts us at a disadvantage to, if we're playing, we gotta keep the mask on and they're playing and that's a run and gun team. I mean, does that put us at a big disadvantage? It's obviously a change. And then, and that note, it was voted, then you have to determine whether that's a game you're gonna wanna play or not. So. As far as I know, the SWAL is all doing that, and SWC is all doing, mask mandated, so.
Josh, you said for basketball, 2 tickets per athlete. What's is it same for wrestling or not, or what's?
Actually, wrestling was not brought up at the 6th, so I don't know. I'd have to wait and see what Ryan Allen tells me on that, and I don't know if they determined that in the SWAL yet, Greg, since obviously remember the SWAL and wrestling.
Right.
So the Six Rivers meeting, we didn't have any discussion on conference wrestling since it's not, we don't participate in that as far as.
I understand.
Yeah. But when I get that, I'll send it out to you.
Okay.
I should know tomorrow, actually. The boys have a meeting tomorrow afternoon, so.
It would be odd if it was different since they're in the same gym.
Well, the only way it'd be different is the SWAL is different than the Six Rivers. That would be the only
Oh,
way.
I see. Okay.
But I think the SWAL is actually, well, I'm not gonna say that. I'm not certain on that. They were talking about no fans, but. I think that covers everything. I hope I didn't miss anything there, but any questions on the winter sports? I'm assuming that you all agree that we should continue with them. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mention middle school. Middle school started, so, all right, that's the same with them, obviously. I honestly don't know, have they been priced on last time? Do you know? Yeah. Haven't been down there yet, I apologize, they started yesterday. Yesterday. That would be a school thing though, as far as we're not affiliated with the WAA and that, and there hasn't, as far as fans, I'm assuming we want to do the same thing.
Not really following, you're not in the conference for that either, really.
Right, we're not playing, we're not a Six Rivers conference really for our middle school, so.
I would assume, are you having the teams that were playing wear masks as well? I mean, I think that's, if we're doing it through the high school and WIA, I think the middle school should be the same way. And, if teams don't wear it, that's a safety issue for us, right? I mean, they're wearing them to help protect
Technically, they
us.
say the mask doesn't protect you, it protects the people next to you, right?
Right, so I mean, the other team not wearing them is putting us at risk, not the other way around.
Lynn Mitchick just commented that yes, middle school is wearing masks. Is that everybody that's playing or just us?
I'm sure
Everybody.
she heard that, so she'll probably chime in. I'm assuming it's everybody we're playing, yeah. And we can say, when we play here,
Everyone.
yeah. Everyone, yeah.
Yeah, it's just hard to, let the kids play basketball without masks and yet the kids have to sit in class all day with masks. I understand it's really difficult to
Okay.
play with
A
them
lot of
on
people think
and
that
it's
with virtual
not
too, right?
comfortable at all, but they're at least getting to play.
When does the girls' season start for middle school
After Christmas.
after Christmas? Thank you.
School ball, yeah. That's new this year. And then wrestling will start, middle school wrestling starts after Christmas too.
Okay.
If there are any other questions, we can move on to the personnel items then, Josh.
Are you, I guess the question here is, we're still having, if we have games during that virtual week off, we're still playing those, still having practice, right? Just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. All right, that's not a voting item there? As far as
I don't
sports?
think so, I don't.
Just an update, right?
Yeah.
All right. What do we have here? Personnel items. Middle school boys basketball coaching contracts. I would like to recommend Jay Terrell and Andrew Wolf as our basketball coaches. I believe Jake will be the head and then Andrew will be the assistant. But they're splitting it. We'll have to pay them that way, but they agreed themselves that they're just gonna split it. As far as the pay. 'Cause I don't think we can do it a different way. So that would be my recommendation.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second the
Okay.
motion.
You got it, Katrina.
Sorry.
A motion by Esser and a second by Schimick to approve the middle school boys basketball coach contracts for Jake Terrell and Andrew Wolf. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next one's extracurricular compensation adjustments.
Josh and I looked at these. Linda wanted us to, make sure that there's some shortened seasons or some different start times and different things. Situation in middle school volleyball, we had a shortened season, but we had one coach, Ginger, coached both 7th and 8th grade. So what we're recommending is to pay her for the head coach, but she handled 2 teams for, I don't know how long, it was about half the season or whatever, but she did 2 teams, so just pay out 1, and hopefully next year we'll have a second coach. And then, we didn't have pep band or jazz band yet, so, no payouts on those, but, those are the only 2 adjustments, really. The high school volleyball, high school football, all those things completed their seasons. So we're just saying Ginger as middle school volleyball head coach, and then no pep band, no jazz band yet. I don't know if there will be pep band all year. Doesn't look like it.
Probably not.
And that was how we wrote those contracts at the beginning of the year, so there really isn't any action to take on those, just a
Right.
informational piece.
Yeah, we did that, I think right when you first started, Mr. Burke, where we made it clear that that would be either a, prorated or not at all type of thing, depending on the season. And we shared that with, Ms. Mitchell shared with, I know, with the coaching staff, so, and then we shared with the teaching staff.
Okay. I think that's about all we have on the agenda, except for setting the date for the next board meeting. Bryce, do we need a policy meeting to go over those Neola policies before coming to the board?
I don't know how you've done that before. I can get that stuff out to you electronically, so you have it before the board meeting. When I say I can get it out, that means Bart can get it out. And then we could just go through there's several updates, but however you want to do it.
So typically how we've done it is if it's gonna take us an hour to go through all of the changes and have a little discussion on it, we would just have a policy meeting separate.
Okay.
So that group could go through it in a little more detail, and then we wouldn't have to spend all that time at the board. If it's just 1 or 2 policies and fairly minor changes, then I don't think we would need a separate committee meeting. But if it's 20 updates, and it's quite a few to go through.
This is quite a few, so let's get the updates done before we set the meeting, because I don't know when you'll be here for sure. So we'll do that as soon as we get them completed, then we can set that.
Okay.
Then you're right, then it's, you focus on that, and then at the meeting, it's already been vetted by that policy.
Right.
And at the meeting, they just kind of give the skinny.
And then we're talking about having a special board meeting or just moving the regular board meeting, probably moving the regular board meeting. You guys will be able to get the December vouchers and things that early,
I
or?
think we can, it'd be a nice, not to have 2 meetings in December.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it's the 14th or something. But yeah, that would work for me.
Yeah, it's a little, makes me a little nervous setting that meeting just the Wednesday before, trying to decide whether to go virtual for another 3 weeks before Christmas, but I don't know what else we have for options. You know, I think Josh will just have to let people know that when we go virtual that week, we're not sure what we're doing beyond that. I think we're leaning towards bringing the elementary back after that anyway. It would be more a question of the middle and high school. Is that what people are thinking, just so Josh can give them a heads up?
I see a lot of heads nodding.
Okay.
Yes, I think yes.
Okay. All right, so December 2nd at 6 o'clock. Be our next board meeting.
And that will be virtual.
From your car.
Yes. Possibly even drive.
All right, I think that's everything we had on the agenda here.
I make a motion to adjourn. Should I? Sorry.
I'll second it.
A motion by Schimick and a second by Esser to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Bye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks.
Shut the recording off.
Not yet, I'm working on it. Don't be swearing. Yeah, it's done. Shut her down. Amputation. Amputation's the only answer.
What does he say? Can you hear? Is he talking to you? Can you hear him saying?
He's muted himself, so I don't know why he went on there.
Oh.
You want to just see himself on camera.
Well, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut, so good night, everybody.
Come on, Bradley, shut her down.
Still going on.
Can I leave the meeting or not?
Yeah.
Yes? Right, yeah.
Yeah, but it's still going on.
He alluded to it that he
Actually,
was.
the light needed just show the kitchen and walk over there, so.
Sweaty and.
Oh, really?
He said that he
Yeah.
wouldn't have, went and got tested, it would be for everybody in his family, and he
Right.
wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming.
Yeah, he's got that. Pacemaker for him. That's not in there for anybody.
Said it's been in his van for a while.
Yep. Might be there a little bit longer.
That's fine.
All right, well, you guys have a good night.
Yep, and I do.
Thank you, guys.
Somebody will have some pictures.